Welcome to an hour of HealthMade Radio. HealthMade is a community for natural health seekers where we educate people about common health conditions and share extensive research on the most effective natural health treatments and promote legislation that protects our health freedoms. A core concept belief is in the innate intelligence and healing power of the body, and if properly supported spiritually, emotionally, and nutritionally, it can find its way back to health. HealthMade Radio will bring information from integrative health experts throughout the world. Check us out at healthmade.co. Health is what you make it. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, and I will be your host. Today's guest is Dr. Daniel Nuzum. Dr. Daniel Nuzum grew up in a family of naturopaths and learned about natural medicine while growing up with his 32 adopted brothers and sisters, while assisting his parents with creating herbal and homeopathic remedies for his disabled siblings. As Daniel grew, so did his interest in natural medicine. He began his formal training as soon as he was old enough to enter naturopathic medical school and became the youngest licensed naturopathic physician in U.S. history. After years of university study, Doc, as so many lovingly call him, amassed a tremendous amount of understanding on the workings of natural medicine and has gone as far as to complete multiple PhDs in various aspects of the field. Doc has been licensed by various tribal medical boards over the years and is presently licensed as a certified tribal healer by the First Nation Medical Board. Dr. Nuzum, is such an honor to have you on my show. We've been friends for a long time, and I've always been amazed at the tremendous amount of work that you do and how you care for people and then bring them back to healing. So thank you for coming on my show today.
Oh my goodness! Well, thank you for having me. You know, we have been friends for a long time. It's upwards of 15 years or more now. It's fantastic.
I believe so. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to have people of your caliber and that you can lean on whenever you need to. So I really appreciate that. I'm curious, 32 adopted brothers and sisters, and they were all dealing with, were they all mostly disabled? Or, that's a lot.
It was a lot. Yes, my parents specialized in adopting the unadoptable. That was their mission. That was their calling from God. And they adopted, 18 of my brothers and sisters were born crack babies. The children that were all in wheelchairs, we had 8 children in wheelchairs as I was growing up. All 8 were vaccine-injured children. They used to call it cerebral palsy, but it's encephalitis, and that's what most of them suffered from. Let's see here. We had 9 of my brothers and sisters had seizure disorders, and 8 were in wheelchairs. 9 were autistic, and at this point, we're all grown and gone, and Mom says she has empty nest syndrome. She only has 7 of my brothers and sisters living at home with them now. So
that's an empty nester right there, just 7. So how? During this, how was it to grow up with that? Obviously that it's to attend to the needs for these people that have, they have all these challenges, and that would be a round-the-clock job. And you being, I would assume, being the oldest almost, right? Or you would need to be there supporting them through this whole process.
Yes, I was big brother, and I was my parents' assistant. They didn't have anyone that came to the house to care for the children. No physical therapists, no nurses, no outside help. My parents tended to them. In how I ended up gaining such a love for natural medicine is they enlisted my help. As I was growing up, I I was talking to my wife this morning. She got her she woke up this morning. I gave her an adjustment and got her all feeling good this morning. She's like, how long have you been doing this? I said, well, gosh, my dad had figured out a neck adjustment and some pressure points that he would do, some acupuncture points. He would just do acupressure, and he could bring any of the kids that had the seizure disorders, he could bring them out of their seizures. He could stop the seizure immediately and bring them right out of it. Well, with 9 of them having seizures all the time, to give you an example, I had one brother that had 180 grand mal seizures a day.
Oh.
So we had ample opportunity to use these techniques.
Yes. So you've had lots of practice. So it's like you started with school by birth. You came to Earth, and that was school.
Correct. So I was about 10 years old when I started, doing some of the therapies, helping my dad. We had by the time I was 10 years old, there were 12 of us, 12 or 13 of us in the house. And let's see here, by the time I was 15, there were 25 of us in the house, 25 children. There's 13 children by the time I was 10, and then by the time I was 15, there were 25. And so, we had a big table, and Dad would sit at one end, and I'd sit at the other. That way, just in case somebody had a seizure, I could get my side of the table, or he could get his side of the table. It was.
Yeah, that must have been. And your adrenals are still okay?
That's what's really funny. My wife says that it's obvious that you enjoyed it because you keep doing it, you love it, you can't get enough of it. So. And you have such a kind of calm demeanor, relaxed demeanor. So I would assume that you've been able to, it's just being that calm in the storm, and you have that energy about you. So that's really cool. Oh yeah. Well, that I attribute that to God. I think He when you're on the path that He has you on, you can't help but have peace.
Yeah. I can agree more. Let's take a quick break because I want to we're going to chat. What I really want to get into is the immune system because it's something that is so vital to understand, considering everything that's going on right now. So we'll take a quick break. You're listening to Health Made Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Dr. Daniel Nuzum. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Health Made Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Dr. Daniel Nuzum. So, Doc, what does the immune system do? I mean, why do we need it? And what does it do? What's its function?
What is the immune system? That's always teaching in medical schools and things like that. The only cells of our immune system are our white blood cells. But our immune system encompasses every aspect of our body. Our skin operates as part of our immune system. Our mucous membranes in our ear, nose, throat, and our chest, even throughout our gut, that acts as part of our immune system. Those are barriers that they literally act as barriers that assist in our immune function. But our immune system itself is what we would call our white blood cells. Those white blood cells, they work all throughout all of the other systems of the body. It's really a very, very intricate system. The immune system, in my opinion, I view the immune system as a sensory system. I view it as a control mechanism of our body. I think the immune system of I think of the immune system as if it is something that's constantly monitoring the external environment of our body. Okay, everything that's around us, temperature, moisture, barometric pressure, everything that's, whether it's daytime or nighttime, all of these things are things that our immune system is aware of and it's keeping tabs on at all times. But it's also doing exactly the same thing internally. It's keeping the same track of what's going on inside in the internal environment of our body. So not just in our bloodstream, not just in our heart, not just in our liver or our intestines and these things. In every aspect of our body, our immune system is keeping track of what's going on. And it's part of the regulatory mechanism of our body.
So is there like a feedback mechanism then? Yeah, you have the immune system. They continually kind of feel out what's going on. You have this pathogen here. You have this chemical. You have this tissue that needs healing or is injured. And is there then a feedback mechanism to other areas of the body to respond to that?
Correct, exactly. So it's a sensory mechanism. And because it's a sensory mechanism, that's why it's such a great defense mechanism. There's nothing that gets past our immune system. Our immune system is aware of everything that's going on inside of us and outside of us at all times. Because of that, if there is an invader, the immune system's ready for it. It didn't get past the front gate. You know what I mean?
And you have some things called, you have the innate, and then you have the adaptive. So what is the difference between the two?
Well, your innate immunity is, we have multiple components. Part of that is your skin. Like I said earlier, your skin, your mucous membranes in your ears, nose, mouth, throat, chest, lungs, your intestines, all those mucous membranes, all of those are barriers. Even things like eyelids or eyebrows, eyelashes and those types of things, the hairs in our nose even, these things are all act as part of our innate immunity. And we also have non-specific immunity that's part of our innate immunity, where we have white blood cells that produce antibodies that just can go after whatever we need them to go after. They're non-specific. It's kind of like a universal bullet. Doesn't matter what you aim it at, it'll go through it. These are non-specific immunity. Then on the other side, the adaptive immunity, what that is where our body has been exposed to something, our immune system has developed a strategy against it, and that strategy gets taught to all of the entire immune system. And so you have your lymphocytes that produce antibodies, these white blood cells that produce antibodies, your T cells and B cells and those guys, they produce specific antibodies against specific invaders, or people, pathogens that are coming into the system. These guys produce specific antibodies against them, which then unleashes the macrophages, or the Pac-Men, the ones that go around actually fighting with the bad guys and in devouring them. Then, so we have this innate immunity that is kind of just it's non-specific. It really doesn't matter who we're up against. We have barriers. We have specific, non-specific immunity, where there's non-specific antibodies that just can work against anything that we need them to work against. And then on the other side, we have the adaptive immunity, where it adapts. It learns new strategies, learns new, as it gets exposed to the next virus or the next bacteria or whatever, as it gets exposed, it learns the new techniques or new tactics to overcome whatever it is that we're being challenged by.
So, and how effective is this immune system? And now we're obviously people are afraid of the COVID, but we've dealt with so many viruses in the past and so many pathogens in the past. How effective is the immune system? How much can we rely on it to be able to address these stressors and concerns that we're faced with?
Oh, in my opinion, it is the ultimate defense mechanism. One of the things that is totally amazing when we look at genetics is that, humans have been around for a while. We've been around. We're still here because our ancestors have adapted to the viruses and bacteria and the pathogens and all these things, and they've overcome them. And then they had children, and those children had some of that information in them. And that information keeps being sent forward where, one person to the next is one generation to the next, is taking that information forward. And what's interesting is when we look at genetics, human genome genetics, the human genome is only 22% human. The other 78% is viral, bacterial, and fungal residue. We have 78% of our of our human genome is actually from past pathogens that the human race has dealt with. Therefore, when I'm bringing that up because our immune system comes pre-programmed to deal with almost anything.
So it's like we've seen, pretty much anything and everything, throughout, obviously, the history of our existence. And
right.
And the amount, so it's almost like we're not really human. We are human, but we are just a compilation of all these different organisms and their genetic programming, and that is what makes us be us. It's like we're a universe in ourselves.
Exactly. That's exactly it. What's really interesting is truth be told, this is outside of our gut. I'm going to talk about our gut in just a minute, but outside of our gut, every one of our 75 trillion cells has at least 10 bacteria or fungi microorganisms that are acting in and upon each and every cell in our body every day, all day long. And apart from that, every cell in our body has a thing called a mitochondria. And a mitochondria is the power generator for the cell. And you have cells, if you reach down to your side, grab your love handle, those cells over there, they don't have as many mitochondria as the cells in your heart or the cells in your brain or the cells in your liver, the active, super active tissues. So a fat cell has maybe one mitochondria or one power generator, whereas a brain cell, a liver cell, or a heart cell will have up to 2,000 mitochondria per cell. This is massive amount of these little power generators. Well, about 20 years ago, they found out that mitochondria aren't human. Mitochondria are bacteria. And so not only do we have at least 10 microorganisms acting in and upon every cell of our body, we also have a vital component of our cells that is bacterial. It's not even human. And if we don't have mitochondria, our cells don't work and we die. It's not just vital. It is almost one of all the aspects of the cell as one of the most important. And it's bacterial. And
what's interesting is that the mitochondria plays a role then in the repair of dysfunctional genetic material. So our DNA is then controlled and repaired by the mitochondria, and then also the mitochondria holds then the cell death switch, meaning that it has the control over the cell whether it's going to continue to live or die.
Exactly.
That's a powerful role for an infected cell. I mean, it's like the immigrant bacteria became the president of the cell.
Correct. That's exactly right. And so, as you can see, the mitochondria have such a huge role they play in all of our health. Not just to mention our energy levels, but our genetic repair, how long our cells live, whether our cells continue to replicate or not. I mean, they control all kinds of things, and they're bacteria. Now, if we throw the amount of bacteria and fungus and those things that are growing in our gut, the microbial cells in our gut, we know at this point that there's 137,000 different species of microorganisms that are supposed to be alive in our gut. And their number in the millions of times more than the number of cells that we have. The quantity of genetic material in our gut from microbes is 1,000 times more than the genetic material the rest of our body has.
Well, that's incredible.
It's just incredible. So, in reality, we are far more microbial. Our physical body is far more microbial than we are human. And I'm coming to this point for a reason. When we look at microbiology, in microbiology, we look at all the different microorganisms on the planet. Only 5% of all of the microorganisms on the planet can even cause pathology in human beings. So only 5% can even make us sick, folks. Only 5%. And they're the ones that get all the press.
It just shows how little we need to be scared, meaning that we have so much for us and so little against us.
Correct. That's exactly the case. So of those 95% of the other microbes on the planet, 80% of them are probiotic, and they actually will heal us. They're not just will they not cause pathology. It's not just that they won't make you sick. They'll actually heal you. And that's a vast majority of the microbes on the planet. And we're all running around scared, running around like chickens with their heads cut off, scared of this little virus from Wuhan. And
so it's almost like here you have, you liken it, we have the armed forces of USA, with all the powers that they have, and then we become scared with a little boy that has a rock in his pocket and thinking that that's going to hit us.
Exactly. It's about just about right. You hit the nail on the head there, sir.
I love it. Well, let's take a quick break because I want to expand on this a little bit more. You're listening to Health Made Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Dr. Daniel Nuzum. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Health Made Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Dr. Daniel Nuzum, and we're discussing the immune system because that's literally a hot topic because we know with everything that's going on in the world right now, the immune system is what we're needing to rely on, and it is important to know what you have working for you so that you're not so afraid of the things that seem to be working against you. So here you're mentioning, get of all the different organisms out there, 5% can harm us, 95 does not, and even 80% of them are restorative. They are the ones that are supporting and building us up. So looking at the body, and you gave these numbers as to how many different organisms that are there compared to, yes, the physical cells that are us. So it's like we are then these this kind of, in this, it's like we're a biomatrix. We're kind of like a consciousness or a group consciousness of all
Correct.
these different organisms, and that is what becomes us.
It's so true. There's when working with people trying to regain their health, get in shape again, maybe lose some weight, those types of things, we always have to talk about cravings. It always ends up coming up. People talk about, well, but I like my Frappuccino. And we're like, well, do you like those 10 pounds on your waist? And they battle with it. Well, what it is, a big part of that is the fact that the microorganisms in your body, if they're out of balance, they're going to crave certain things. And whether you subconsciously or even consciously actually want these things, those microorganisms will scream for certain foods. They will drive you nuts till you go eat a certain food. And what it is actually an imbalance in the microbes in the system. And just to drive home the point you made there, you're exactly right. We are biomatrix, a collective consciousness. And I personally believe the Bible story that God made the very first man out of dirt, out of soil. And if that was the case, if we put that to the scientific test, the composition of the human body on a chemical level and the composition of soil on a chemical level should have some pretty good similarities. And if you look at it, the human body is 70% water. It's that we then have varying amounts of the periodic table, and I'll go over those in just a minute. And then we have microorganisms, like we've been talking about. I mean, our body is way more microorganisms than it is humans. It's just dumbfounding almost. Our body is 18.5% carbon, 11.5% hydrogen, 65% oxygen. It's right around 2% nitrogen. The other 1.5% is all the rest of the periodic table. Now, all of that being said, if you take a soil sample, soil is moisture or water. It's varying ratios of the periodic table, all the different minerals and elements, and then it's microbial. It's really interesting how both soil and the human body are very, very similar in their chemical makeup. And what's interesting is a lot of the things that affect soil also affect us, which is why nutrition is so vitally important. What we put in our bodies, what we feed ourselves with, what we supplement with, these are all paramount to maintaining the balance of both microorganisms but also chemistry in our body. The thing that's happening to our soil, where our soil, our topsoil density 120 years ago, at the turn of the last century, we had anywhere from 3 to 3.5 feet of topsoil globally. This is around the whole world. So anything that you grew had about 3 to 3.5 feet of topsoil to glean nutrition from. And so the food was very nutrient dense. We come forward to today where we have 6 to 8 inches of topsoil, not feet, 6 to 8 inches of topsoil globally. Around the world, we've stripped the earth, the surface of the earth of topsoil down to, we've almost taken taken just about as close to a meter of topsoil that we have eliminated over the last 120 years. And what's interesting is our soil is just as nutrient deficient as our people.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're relying on just what you're having, your 3 squares a day to get all your nutrition, the soil is depleted, therefore the food is depleted, therefore you can't possibly attain the nutrition that you need from just food. So we have to supply that some other way. And thank God we have a supplement industry in this country because we need it.
We need it, yeah. And so, I mean, in addition to, I mean, you're talking about the nutritional deficiency, and I mean, you were talking about God created Adam out of dirt. I mean, from the soil. So it just shows that our composition, is that dirt, and I would think that with more diversity, there's more intelligence and more adaptability, and be able to deal with stressors better, and be able to be healthier. So as we are then depleting the topsoil, we are then also reducing the diversity of the microorganisms, which will then also impact our inability. So then we become less diverse, and we become less flexible and adaptive, and our health will suffer, our immune system will suffer. And like you're saying, the immune system is like this sensory organ, but if you are not educated, if the sensory organ is not educated, it can't really address situations appropriately in a healthy manner, and then obviously there'd be more disease. Correct.
One of the things that's interesting is there's this thing called a microbiome, okay, and it's the most people associate this with the gut, so we'll start with the gut. So you have this microbiome, you have your mucous membranes that line the inside of the gut, the pipes, right? Well, what grows over that mucous membrane is a series of layers of microorganisms, and they colonize over the mucous membranes of our gut, and you actually want this to be pretty thick, not just a couple cells thick. You want it to be multicellular thick. And the more dense your microbiome, the better off you can absorb nutrients, the better off you can eliminate toxins, the better off you can metabolize hormones. It affects everything. But we have that same situation going on in our ear, nose, and throat, our upper respiratory system. We have the same thing going on in our urinary tract. We also have the same thing going on in our skin, where our skin, in our urinary tract, in our respiratory system, in our digestive system, all these places that are exposed to the outside world are covered with microorganisms. And those probiotic microorganisms communicate with our immune system directly. So if you get, let's say somebody gets exposed to MRSA, and it gets on their skin, the microbiome of your skin, if it's healthy, will fight with that MRSA, because MRSA is going to come in and try to supplant it out of its home. The microbiome on your skin lives there. Your skin is its home, and it will defend its home just like you or I would. And so they'll fight, and they'll put up a fight to maintain their ground, keep their home. And in that fight, they will alert your immune system that MRSA is coming through. And we're actively engaging in MRSA. If it gets through, this is what you FYI, here they come. And if your microbiome on your skin, or the microbiome in your upper respiratory system, or your urinary tract, or your gut, if that is depleted and you don't have enough microbiome, you're going to have a delayed response from your immune system because it's not going to get alerted immediately. Your microbiome alerts your immune system. It's fighting with something the very moment it engages. And so if let's say the MRSA is really, really strong and it overpowers the microbiome in your skin, well, the longer it takes for it to do that, the more time your immune system has to prepare. So the healthier the microbiome on your skin or your gut or your respiratory system or your urinary tract, the more resilient they are, the more plentiful they are, the slower it is for a invader to get into your system, and your immune system, which then gives your immune system time to prepare a defense, and it can act accordingly. So even these microorganisms that are part of our body are also part of our immune system.
Yeah, so it's almost like we have, that's our topsoil, and we want it deep in order to be able to have the intelligence, communicated to the immune system as to what needs to be done to protect ourselves. Let's take a quick break. You're listening to Health Made Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Dr. Daniel Nuzum. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Health Made Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Dr. Daniel Nuzum. So you made a really interesting point that the immune system responds to our adaptive immune system responds to the signal sent from the innate immune system, which are all the microorganisms along these barriers that we have, like skin, for instance, and other areas. So the question is, if because there's always this talk about vaccines, in order to be able to build an immune system, but here you're not activating the innate immune system because you're bypassing that, because you're sticking a needle, beyond that border, so to say, and all of a sudden, you have a pathogen that's there, and then the adaptive immune system it goes, oh, what is this? Without being pre-alerted, what kind of impact does that have, and how effective is that?
That therein lies a huge amount of the danger of vaccines. See, it's because they're bypassing the innate immunity and just going right after that adaptive immunity. Adaptive immunity happens via an inflammatory response of our body. So when our body has an inflammatory response, is about the same time that when it has this inflammatory response is when it creates antibodies. So by bypassing all of the preparatory mechanisms, they bypass the microbiome, they bypass the skin, they bypass the innate immunity, and go straight into trying to stimulate that adaptive immunity. The danger of creating a life-threatening inflammatory response is really high. It's really, really high. Okay, and it's, in my opinion, it's miraculous that we don't see way, way, way more people having vaccine injury responses. And let me take a step back here and give you an example. Because we don't have the nutrients in the soil, and because the standard American diet is so highly processed, and in the processing process, you process out the nutrients, by the way, just to let everybody know that. Sometimes they'll sprinkle some synthetic nutrients back into the mix, and they call it fortified, but it's really synthetic nutrients that your body even can't, your body's going to treat as toxins anyways. The standard American diet will supply 20% of the recommended daily allowance of vitamins and minerals. Now, the recommended daily allowance, Dr. Karlfeldt here is a pretty tall fella. My son says, "Papa, you're stout."
You are. I mean, it's not stout in a way that you are, chunky. You're just solid. You can't. It's hard to move through you.
Right. So we don't fit on the quote unquote average scale. Okay, Dr. Karlfeldt is really tall. I'm muscular, and I weigh more than what the average weight is, and so the standard, the recommended daily allowance of nutrients by the FDA are set for people much smaller than either of us, so that quantity of nutrients wouldn't cover you or I. And the standard American diet only supplies 20% of that. So what I tell patients and clients is, okay, if we go out to your car and randomly remove 80% of the nuts and bolts, what's the chance of that car breaking down if we try to start it up and take it around the block? It's inevitable.
That'd be a rough. Yeah, it'd be a rough ride, I'll tell you. It would be a no ride, I should say.
Fall off as you pull out the driveway,
It'd be like if you had parked it in East LA over the night and you're white. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. You park your Lamborghini over in East LA and
yeah, see what's left. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh God. So when we have children that aren't getting supplements, they're not getting nutrition from anywhere other than the standard American diet, and they're only receiving 20% of the necessary nutrients to prevent them from getting nutritional deficiency diseases to begin with. And then we bypass all of their immune structures and hit them with a vaccine and try to stimulate their adaptive immunity. It's no wonder the children are having such terrible responses to vaccines. I'm kind of more sensitive to it because it's been I've been in practice for about 30 years. I've seen hundreds of vaccine-injured children over the years, and it's catastrophic and diabolical all at the same time.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking, and you understand the process when you know kind of the function of the innate and the adaptive immune system and how it's supposed to happen, how we bypass that, and so forth. But one of the things before we close, because this is something that you live. I mean, this is so important to you. We're talking about dirt, talking about God creating man out of dirt. And one of the products that you love and talk a lot about is carbon technology, which is humic fulvic acid. Why has that become such a love, in your life, so to say? Why that compared to all the other things that's out there?
Well, I've never found anything in all my years of working in nutrition and growing up with it with my parents and being around. This has been my life, my whole life, and I've never found anything that would manipulate the water in our bodies, the periodic table in our bodies, and the microorganisms in our bodies in a positive direction better than humic and fulvic acid. What's interesting is they do exactly the same thing in soil. And so when we use it in a soil sense, it takes longer because the soil doesn't have a liver and a kidney. It doesn't get up and run around, It doesn't have the circulation that our body has. And so when we put humic and fulvic acids into our body, they work quick and they work very effectively. In the water, they structure the water in our body so that the water is usable and so that it doesn't retain toxins. It's really interesting. So it transports nutrients better when it's structured properly, and it doesn't retain toxins as well. The periodic table, well, probably anyone out there listening to this has heard of heavy metal poisoning. It's ridiculously common, and it's partially common because people are so nutritionally deficient that there's nothing in their system blocking toxic metals from just taking up residence in them. They just absorb them like a sponge because there's nothing stopping them. They don't have any nutrients in their system. So heavy metal poisoning is a very, very terrible problem in our society. And what's interesting with humic and fulvic acids is they rearrange the periodic table in our body, making it healthy. And as they do that, they increase like zinc and magnesium and boron and selenium and these essential nutrients, while at the same time mercury and cadmium and aluminum and these other toxic elements. It's pretty amazing. And then third, they are the most potent prebiotics I've ever come across. You can grow all kinds of things on these. And what's interesting is they grow probiotic microorganisms thousands of times better than they grow the other microorganisms. So other microorganisms don't actually like to eat this stuff. So things that would be what we would call aerobic microorganisms absolutely love these things. So aerobic microorganisms, they're the ones that breathe oxygen like us. Those are probiotics. Those are things that are very good for our body. The anaerobic microorganisms, the ones that eat sugar and ferment things, they're the ones that cause disease. And they don't like humic and fulvic acid. When you have somebody with all kinds of gut problems and they have all of their microorganisms are all out of balance in their gut, sometimes you can throw probiotics into that system and it actually makes them feel worse. Because the probiotics go in there and they start fighting for territory, and every time you take your probiotics, you got a battle going on in your gut. It just doesn't feel good. If you start off with some of these humic and fulvic acids first, it sets the stage for those probiotics. And the quote-unquote bad bugs don't like the humic and fulvic acid, where the good bugs love it. And so you kind of set the stage. After you're on those for a little while, you can start taking probiotics, and they go into your system and do exactly what they're designed to do.
And what's interesting is that, because this is carbon technology, the fulvic humic, and carbon it helps to bind to gases, like hydrogen and oxygen, and we know obviously oxygen, you need that for tissue repair, for energy production. Hydrogen is one of our strongest antioxidants, and so it would make sense then by bringing fulvic or humic acid into the gut that carry these gases, that would then feed the bacteria that likes oxygen, the aerobic bacteria.
Correct. On that point, let me go back to what I said a little earlier. Remember, the human body is 18.5% carbon. It's 65% oxygen. It's 11.5% hydrogen, and it's 2% nitrogen. What's interesting is that carbon holds those other four gases in a solid state in our body. This is a real important point to understand. There's a thing that they've discovered in these vaccines that they're rolling out, these COVID vaccines, a toxic compound called graphene oxide. Graphene oxide is a toxic form of carbon. And what it does is when it gets into the body, it displaces the healthy carbon in our body. As that healthy carbon gets pushed out of the body, this unhealthy carbon doesn't hold nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen in solid form as well as the healthy carbon. In what has been seen in autopsies of people that have died from these vaccines is instead of their organs being, like a piece of meat, they're more like a piece of Jell-O, and they're turning to mush. And so that's just to give you an idea. Carbon is essential. We have to maintain proper carbon balance in our body. If we have, the difference would be, let's say, the energy you could get from fruits and vegetables, or maybe like whole grains even, all of those have healthy carbons in them, versus eating a piece of burnt wood. Not going to get a whole lot of energy out of that. that burnt, spent carbon is toxic even, okay? In that vibrant, healthy carbon that you would get out of fruits and vegetables, out of whole grains, things like that, that will give you energy. What I like is about the humic and fulvic acids is they modulate all of that. They make it all. They like bring the entire orchestra into concert, into harmony, so that they're actually all playing the same tune.
So they seem to be kind of like the director, the organizer, also
Correct.
the backbone of all the gases that we need, so we can kind of retain them within the tissue. And then also they function like a delivery system where they bring nutrients to tissue and then bring heavy metals and chemicals out of tissue. So it's like they function in so many roles at the same time.
Absolutely. I have a product called Black Brew that you can add this to whatever else you're taking. As a matter of fact, we caution people not to take it around medications because it could actually amplify the effect of medications. But if you take this with any other nutritional supplement that you're taking, it normally doubles, if not triples, the effect of that nutrient that you're consuming. It's really amazing.
Yes. And where can they, people that are listening, I mean, where can they find your products?
drnuzum.com, drnuzum.com. That's our website. That's the best place to get a hold of me. My wife and children and I, we run that. It's a family business. It's not a big business, but it is a family business, and we run that. That's why we supply all of my clients and past patients and all that with supplements and everything. We keep everything just moving through that website. It's the best way to get a hold of me if you want to get a hold of me, or that's where we have all of our products.
And I know it all, when I was chatting with your wife the other day, she was saying it all started that you're kind of doing each capsule by hand almost, and one bottle took quite a while, so it's a lot of love in each capsule, but there was no money to be made because of all the time you spend.
That was for sure. We started, we started 13 years ago with this company, and what was happening is I had very difficult patients. It comes down to it. I had real difficult cases, and I could not find supplements that would actually help them. We tried all these different things, and nothing was helping. So I had friends in the industry, so I'd order different extracts and this and that and whatever, and start mixing things. And I would make 50 capsules for Sue and 50 capsules of another one for John, and so on and so forth. And it got to the point, my wife, it was 2 weekends a month. I was hijacking the kitchen, and I would make a clean room out of the kitchen. and my wife's Hispanic, and that was really dangerous of me to do. It was.
I love it. I love it.
You put put up with me, and so finally it got to the point, when I was taking all weekend to make next week's products for all my patients, she's like, we need to talk to a lab. And so I started talking to a lab about 13 years ago. Got with a lab, and we started making our stuff, not in the kitchen.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, she didn't see she was excited that you got your patients better, but I know she didn't see a financial future in that way of manufacturing. Well, Dr. Nuzum, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you so much for everything that you do, all the wisdom you share, and what you do to kind of make us all feeling better and healthier. So thank you so much.
Awesome. God bless you, brother. I so appreciate it. And folks, hang in there. There are solutions.
Yeah, like you said, 80% of all the bugs are there to heal us, and 5% are not. So we are more on our side. So it's the same, with good versus evil. Yeah, there's more good than bad, and we know that at the end, good is what always wins. So thank you so much. That is it for today. You're listening to Health Made Radio. Remember, check us out at healthmade.co. Health is what you make it. 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 Health